Andrew, one of the biggest topics in Florida are what?
Roofs. So the roofs, we'll be talking today about what to do, what you have to be looking for if you're a seller and if you're a buyer today. So
Stay tuned. Okay, so as a seller, let's talk about the seller perspective first. So as a seller, if you have a roof that's older, let's say 10 years old, if it's a shingle roof,
Sure.
you're going to want to consider the buyer's side of things when it comes to selling, because this is where insurers start to waver on whether they even want to take on the policy, because they do feel like it is a higher risk. Because even if a shingle roof is said to last 15 to maybe 20 years,
right.
In Florida, they take a beating. Now, and especially with all the hurricanes and the cost of insurance,
Sure.
and the risks that they're mitigating here, they have really sort of narrowed the scope of what they're willing to risk in Florida.
What I'm finding most of the time is that when an inspection is done, when they do the wind mitigation inspection, they're looking to say that the insurance companies want to see if there's more than 10 years of useful life left on
Correct.
the roof. And if there's not more than 10 years of useful life left on it, the rates exponentially go higher and higher as you go further and further under 10 years.
Yep.
So, really, if you're a seller, you have to be thinking, well, do I have 10 years of useful life? And that's tough to say. It's tough to say. They'll give you general understanding of, like, if it's shingle, it should last this long. If it's tile, they say, it's 25 to 30 years. But if it's tile and it's been through a bunch of storms, then they're going to say, well, the useful life is less. So there's all these different factors. But at the end of the day, if the roof's not in good shape,
it's not good for the
it's not good for, if you have a buyer and they're not all cash and they're financing, they have to insure it.
Yeah.
And if they can't get insurance, or the insurance is so high, it's just a deal killer.
Even
it just kills the deals.
Even on the cash transactions, most cash people still want a loan. I mean, I have one under contract right now. It's a single family home in Sarasota. There's a barrel tile roof.
Right.
And that is, it's supposed to have like 18 to 20 years life left, is what the reports had stated. And they're searching for quotes now, and the insurers were saying, well, it's got 10 years life on it, so it's 10 years old plus, right? And I'm thinking, well, but it's a tile roof,
right?
And so like,
it should have 15 to 20
like,
years left of useful life on it.
Yeah, so like, are they even considering those factors? It just seems like not as much anymore. So why would someone spend on a metal roof or barrel tile roof? These are all things that you can ask your insurer. We've got a really great list.
Right. Well, and remember, my dad owned an insurance agency in Venice, a large one that stretched from Sarasota all the way down to Northport, and he still has, even though he sold it, still has a lot of his guys that are in the business, Brian Bryson and a couple others. But we have a lot of different agents that we've worked with that are great and can help you kind of sort through that issue. It is important. I mean, it really is. I call it a deal killer, because it just, if you get into the deal and there's not enough useful life on the roof, if they're trying to finance, forget it. There's just no way.
There's been many a time in my career too that we've had to cross this bridge. This isn't the first time.
Sure.
It won't be the last. It's always gonna be something, whether it's a roof or whatnot. But there's a lot of things that can be done. A couple of times we've had, I've split the cost between the buyer and the seller.
Sure.
We do a third that the seller will pay, and the rest gets sort of passed on to the buyer.
Right.
So there's a number of things depending on
Sure.
the situation, the home, the location, like the overall condition of the roof. It
Sure.
could be it. The thing is, you could have an inspection and the inspector says, I'm estimating only 5 years life left, but it could very well last twice
Sure.
as long. It's
Sure.
just really, we're coming from the perspective of the insurance side of things.
Sure.
Really getting the transaction to completion with the satisfied, buyer or seller, whoever side we're working on. So we're actually in the Three Oaks neighborhood area, which is kind of off South Sarasota area, and you just closed one.
I just closed property at 4947 Cedar Oak Way. Again, the useful life of the roof was under 10 years. It was 7 to 8, 9 years or so on the wind mitigation. The buyers found an insurer that would take it on. It was quite expensive. It was much more expensive than had he had more than 10 years. But it was it was something that could potentially have been an issue, and we did end up giving a little bit of a credit there to make the deal work for them. So This area is great though. One of the things I love about this area is it's still very reasonable, and you're still in a great location to South Sarasota, to Siesta Key,
interstate,
to the
really
interstate. Nearby. Yeah, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in this neighborhood in sense of you have a great location, but prices haven't just skyrocketed here. So yeah, this is a great little neighborhood.
Yeah, I would say like this house behind us or the one behind it, if you were to place that on Siesta Key or Longboat Key, it would easily double or triple just because you're on an island, you're on Barrier Island. Another case in point, I'm talking to a couple of coming up potential sellers here, and they're saying, well, I got switched to the state-run insurer, which is Citizens. Is this an issue? I mean, these are just definitely factors that we need to decipher in terms of value too. Like when you're pricing a property for a seller and they're saying that the roof needs to be replaced or it's at the end of its useful life, I mean, that certainly comes into play in terms of value and setting the seller's expectation, setting the buyer's expectation. So these are all things that we always have to talk about.
I mean, you have to think about that in terms of like, if you're a buyer, do you really want to buy a brand new house and immediately need to put sink $40,000 or $50,000 into a roof? Generally speaking, the answer is because, well, yeah, depends, and that's it. It depends on the price. Right. It just depends on the price.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that these issues are going to get worse if we continue to have more hurricanes too. So, we have another factor there that if hurricanes are coming, then you're going to have these types of issues.
Well, listen, we live in Florida. It's one of the most desired states, and I think the most desirable places where people buy, build homes, and have snowbird properties are going to have some sort of natural disaster, whether it's fires in California. I mean, we happen to have hurricanes, among other things we don't need to list out, right? So do you need to necessarily replace your roof to sell? No. As experienced agents, we know how to advise our clients the best that we can. We've got great vendors, our preferred insured vendors and whatnot to help us advise through the process. So don't feel like you have to do that. I would say call one of us to discuss it, and we'll put you on the right path. We'll give you the equity update for your property on the current condition. And also, when I list a property, I'm a big fan of not spending a lot of my seller's money, but I will advise you to do certain things to get the biggest return on your money. And it might be a roof. It just depends on the situation. And so what else do you have to add for that?
I think that's it. I think that's it. If you'd like to get a hold of me, I'd certainly love to meet with you if you're looking to buy or sell right now. Feel free to reach out to me anytime on my cell phone at 941-586-2460.
Yep, and I'm at my cell's 941-544-7690. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. Definitely send this to anyone that you think would find helpful or useful. And if you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe and thank you. We want to hear from you, so thank you.